Welcome, listeners, to a deep dive into AMD. You've sent us some really compelling material suggesting a pivotal moment for them.
Yeah, it looks like it.
We're going to unpack why many are saying this company, long seen as being in a slingshot position, might finally be hitting what they call its inflection moment. I'm genuinely excited to see what we can unearth from it today.
It's certainly a dynamic time in the semiconductor world, that's for sure. And understanding these shifts is really key.
Right.
What's fascinating here, I think, is how years of AMD's strategic effort seem to be, well, maybe culminating right now.
Okay, let's set the stage then. Our sources describe AMD as often playing the challenger, the Rocky to NVIDIA's Ivan Drago. So
That's a good analogy, yeah. Always the underdog.
So how did they get here? What were some of those early, maybe strategic jabs that brought them to this point, especially thinking about AI?
Well, historically, AMD has always found ways to challenge, maybe chip away at the lead. We saw their Zen architecture. That was a big step.
Yeah.
And then Zen 2 and 3, those were fundamental shifts. Made their processors really competitive again. The EPYC data center line, too, that was another really significant move.
Okay.
But when the AI explosion really kicked off, AMD was, well, the material calls them the awkward guest at the AI banquet. A bit harsh, maybe, but
I see what they mean.
yeah. Their Instinct accelerators and the ROCm software, they were just largely overlooked because, developers wanted TU Day, NVIDIA's HUD.
The standard, basically.
Exactly. So there was this palpable sense of waiting. You heard Lisa Su, the CEO, kept saying, just wait.
And then came MI300. The sources are pretty clear. This isn't about, destroying NVIDIA overnight.
No, not at all.
But it's positioned as a legitimate alternative. What makes MI300X and MI300A so important? I mean, most important products since Zen launched in 2017. That's a big statement.
It really is, and it marks a significant turning point.
Yeah.
The MI300 series, both X and A, they're packed with HBM3 memory, high bandwidth memory, delivers more raw memory bandwidth than even NVIDIA's H100, which is, the benchmark.
Wow. Okay.
And crucially, this isn't just a concept or, some samples floating around. It's shipping in volume.
So people are actually buying it?
Oh, yeah. This has led to hyperscalers like Microsoft, Meta, Oracle.
Yeah.
They're buying in volume. This isn't some pilot program.
Right.
Reports say AMD is really slicing into that huge, $100 billion AI pie.
Right.
And get this, it crossed the billion-dollar run rate line faster than any product in AMD's history.
Incredible. So why now? Why are the hyperscalers jumping in?
Well, enterprises need an NVIDIA alternative. It's partly cost, sure, but it's also about supply. Supply chain resilience is huge for these guys. They can't rely on just one source.
Makes sense. Diversification.
Exactly.
Okay. But one of the biggest hurdles, the biggest criticisms against AMD, it's always been the software, right? The ROCm stack. Our material points out it used to be, clunky, an afterthought. Some even joked it stood for, really often crashes my system. How's that changed to make AMD actually viable now?
Yeah, that reputation was definitely there. And that's where this quiet revolution, as you called it, is happening. The software stack is becoming genuinely enterprise-ready.
Okay. What does that mean in practice?
It means developers are starting to see AMD hardware as a viable second lane. You've got real PyTorch support now. That's a huge framework for AI models.
Right. Very widely used.
And things like ONX support are real, helping move models between platforms. It means developers can actually bring their existing AI projects over without a massive overhaul. It's not a joke anymore.
So it works.
It works. And this transformation is getting help from the open source community, and even the hyperscalers themselves are investing in it. It's becoming the necessary option for real AI work.
Interesting. Now, while AI grabs all the headlines, the sources remind us not to forget AMD's data center CPU business. That's described as being on fire. What's going on there?
Oh, it's remarkable. The strength in their EPYC processors, we're talking 4th and 5th gen, Genoa, Bergamo, and now Turin, they are absolutely dominating in cloud workloads. Yeah. And it's a stark contrast to Intel, which is still shipping chips on processes that, the source says should have been retired during the Obama administration. A bit pointed, but...
Ouch. But it highlights the gap.
It does. AMD's chiplet architecture, that's key. It allows for this surgical efficiency, offers a really clear price-performance advantage.
And the market share reflects that.
Totally. It's pushed AMD's server CPU market share past 30%, which honestly was unthinkable just a few years back. This business, it really builds the compute backbone underneath this whole AI revolution.
Okay, right. So that's a huge win. But let's unpack. It sounds like mostly wins, but the material does mention some choppier areas. What about consumer stuff? Gaming.
Yeah, it's not all smooth sailing. No. The gaming GPU side, specifically the Radeon RX 7000 series, it's been, well, underwhelming is the word used. NVIDIA still pretty much owns the high end of that market. Simple as that.
But on the CPU side?
Different story. Ryzen remains a real force. The new 7000 series chips, excellent. Great performance per watt, good pricing, people like them.
Okay.
Now, the overall PC market is kind of in a slump, we know that. But there's this potential stealth catalyst mentioned.
Oh, what's that?
The idea is integrated AI features, like on-chip NPU acceleration neural processing units for things like Microsoft's Copilot.
Right, AI directly on the laptop chip.
Exactly. That could drive maybe a modest PC refresh cycle, perhaps late 2025 or into 2026, more powerful AI-ready machines. So, potential there.
Interesting. Okay, all this tech talk is fascinating, but let's talk money. What does it mean for the bottom line? We know AMD's stock took a beating in 2022, 2023. How are the financials looking now with all this happening?
Yeah, that prior stock performance definitely reset expectations, which sometimes isn't a bad thing for investors.
Right.
Now, the projections are that this MI300 ramp-up, it should drive gross margins back towards, say, 53 to 55%, which is healthy. And significantly, the data center business, now over 40% of total revenue. And it's climbing.
That's a big shift.
Huge shift.
Yeah.
So EPS estimates for 2025 are rising. And even when you factor in growth rates, AMD's forward PE ratio, the price to earnings, it's still well under NVIDIA's. By quite a wide margin, actually. Suggesting what analysts often call asymmetric risk-reward. Basically, the potential upside looks greater than the potential downside based on current valuations.
Got it. And who's steering this ship? A lot of the credit in our source material seems to go to the CEO, Dr. Lisa Su.
Oh, absolutely. If you connect the dots, leadership here is crucial. Yeah. Dr. Su, since she took over in 2014, I mean, the company's market cap growth is something like 3,000%. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
She's characterized by this, like, calm, ruthless execution, consistently shipping on time, hitting performance targets, beating earnings. Wall Street loves that kind of steady hand. Predictability, consistency, yes. And you also see the results of strategic partnerships, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft Azure, Meta, Oracle Cloud. These aren't small customers.
No kidding.
And the Xilinx acquisition, too, for their adaptive and embedded computing group. That brings in a different kind of business sticky, high-margin revenue. Diversifies things.
Right, that makes sense. But every story has potential pitfalls. What could derail this inflection moment for AMD? What are the risks?
Sure, there are always risks. The material points out a few key threats. Number one is probably still CUDA lock-in. NVIDIA's software ecosystem is just so dominant.
Hard to break people away from it.
Very hard. It's not just hardware. It's years of developer investment, tools, libraries. Then there's the macro risk.
Yeah.
You know, could the AI bubble pop if demand for AI chips suddenly slowed down?
Possible. A resurgent Intel's another factor. If their new 18A manufacturing process really works and their gaudy AI chips start hitting their targets, that could change the competitive landscape. Okay.
And of course, if that consumer segment just remains dead weight, dragging things down. But, you know, the overall assessment from the sources seems to be that the potential upside outweighs these risks right now.
Okay, so putting it all together, what does this mean for you, the listener? Our deep dive suggests this isn't just, another temporary bounce for AMD.
Seems that way.
It's described as more of a structural transformation, moving from just being a CPU challenger to becoming this diversified compute platform, a company launching category-defining hardware.
The slingshot, it seems, has really started to fire.
Yeah, the key takeaways feel pretty clear. MI300 AI chips, they're selling and selling fast. Data center CPUs, incredibly strong. The AI software stack, finally usable, really enterprise-ready.
Right.
Consumers weak, yeah, but those integrated AI PCs could provide a spark down the road. Financially, the stock looks reasonably valued for its growth potential. And Lisa Su, she remains a highly competent, very credible CEO.
So the inflection point looks real.
It really looks like it's here, yeah. The curve seems to be bending in AMD's favor.
You know, this whole deep dive into AMD's journey, from that perennial underdog role to being a potential leader, It really highlights something profound, doesn't it?
How consistent, focused execution year after year can actually shift entire market landscapes. It really raises an important question for you to think about. How might identifying and understanding these kinds of inflection moments, whether it's in other industries, maybe even in your own career, how might that allow you to anticipate future trends and opportunities rather than just, reacting when they happen?
That's a great thought to end on. Food for thought, definitely.